Hello. What used to be a traditional crime committed by the locals has seemingly become a lucrative venture involving bandits who raid pastoral farming communities in the process of practicing their trade. Our program today is on cattle rustling in Nigeria. Good evening and welcome to Weekend File. For several years, cattle rustling has become big-time business in Nigeria, where some herders and heavily armed bandits and syndicates operate with reckless abandon and high-level collaboration that usually guarantees successful operations. Activities of cattle rustlers have resulted in the theft of huge number of cattle, with murder, rape, human displacement, burning down of entire community settlements, and destruction of livelihoods and horrors of unimaginable dimension. Virtually all the states in the north are affected by cattle rustling, as several villages in 4 northern states of Kaduna, Niger, Katsina, and Zamfara are identified as worst hit. For instance, herdsmen in Kaduna recently cried out over losing about 11,000 cattle in 3 months in 4 local governments alone. The story is the same in many other localities. Experts now believe that the trigger for rustling business is the presence of forest reserves that constitute uncovered space in Nigerian geography. Worried by the extreme violence associated with the cattle rustling, the Nigerian police at one time unveiled a technology that would provide livestock and animal information and put an end to the incessant cattle rustling in the country. And so on Weekend File tonight, we will take a critical look at this menace constituting serious economic crime operated by sophisticated and well-armed syndicates. Thank you for choosing to invest your time with us tonight on your Weekend Companion. My name is Kirian Umayo, and this is Weekend File. And first is the news. Contrary to his speculated death, the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, also known as Sheikh El-Zakzaky, is alive. Joseph Johnson, who caught up with him at the Department of State Services DSS facility in Abuja, reports that he is hale and hearty.
Few days, there was an unfounded rumor making the rounds in the country that the Islamic leader Sheikh El-Zakzaky passed on in the custody of the DSS. But here he is, not just alive, but on his feet, and filled with hopes that all doubting Thomases and those who wanted to capitalize on the said rumor to bring about disharmony in the country will desist.
After it was severe on me on Monday, but subsequently it started to subside, and for the first time at least the security have allowed me to see my own doctors. So it were my own doctors who examined me. Before I used to be examined by security doctors, but I'm getting better. Okay. Thanks to all your prayers.
Thank you. Right. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. The Department of State Services says the security of the country is paramount and urged Nigerians to discountenance every attempt by some unscrupulous persons to plunge the country into chaos.
Security agencies and the DSS also will nip any situation that is likely to cause mayhem in the bud.
With the appearance of Sheikh El-Zakzaky, rumors surrounding his death may have been laid to rest. Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
The presidency has denounced a Twitter handle impersonating President Muhammadu Buhari and claimed that he justifies attacks by herdsmen, saying they were only defending themselves as a fake handle. A statement by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, denounced the handle in its entirety, warning that President Buhari stands by his earlier condemnation of the killings in Benue and other parts of the country as dastardly and unacceptable before God and man. It adds that those behind the concocted fake messages are also enemies of Nigeria and have no place in a decent society. It further notes that President Buhari stands by his earlier directives that all those behind wanton killings in any part of the country must be brought to book. The federal government has appealed to media and public commentators to exercise restraint in their coverage of the fallouts of the recent farmers-herders clashes in Benue State in order not to further inflame passion and worsen the situation. In a statement by Shegu Ademi, the Special Assistant to the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, said the federal government is working hard to address the situation in Benue and across the country. He said it is incumbent on the media and public commentators not to engage in action that can aggravate the crisis. The minister said the federal government is absolutely saddened by the loss of lives and the destruction of property resulting from the crisis, and recalls that President Muhammadu Buhari, in commiserating with the governor and people of Benue State, condemned the killings and assured of necessary security measures to prevent further attacks. He said the federal government has mapped out short and long-term solutions to the crisis. In other news now, movement of people and vehicles in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, were disrupted Saturday following a crisis that erupted involving some youth. John Yaku reports that calm has, however, returned following concerted efforts by security agents.
This is the popular Atiku Abubakar Road linking the Benue State Government House and the Center Makurdi. It is usually a busy road on a normal day, but today it is virtually empty. This follows crises that erupted within the areas in the early hours of today. Though it is yet to be established what exactly caused the crisis, we can see the police going around the town to calm the situation. Some of the residents fleeing the areas have this to say.
I see people they run with they carry knife, carry cutlass, they take it. Maybe my for run for the day.
The situation forced many traders to close shops. The usual town service buses and private vehicles were off the roads as all roads were virtually deserted. At the Federal Medical Center gate in Makurdi, there was a burnt vehicle with two others around the hospital junction. As at the time of filing the report, there was a gradual increase in vehicular movements on the roads, an indication that normalcy is returning. Police Public Relations Officer Benue State Command, Joe Yamu, says investigations to unravel the immediate and remote causes of the crisis is ongoing as a number of persons have also been arrested.
I cannot ascertain the number now, but because arrests have been made from different quarters, and until we are able to tally the number of arrests, I cannot be able to ascertain to you. As you can see, we are still on patrol.
Meanwhile, Governor Samuel Tom has directed security agents to fish out perpetrators of the crime and warned that any further disruption of public peace will be decisively dealt with. In Makurdi, John Yaku, NTA News.
Thank you, John, for updating us on that situation. Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has impounded 6 container load of banned narcotics known as tramadol and several consignment of illicit pharmaceuticals at the Tinkan Island port in Lagos. Musa Toliat reports that the seizure, valued at over 3 billion naira, was born out of a synergy between NDLEA and its foreign counterparts.
Of such products that would have jeopardized the health of Nigerians if the consignments were not intercepted and seized by the NDLEA operatives.
When we got the intelligence that this kind of substance was coming into the country, the chairman chief executive of the NDLEA had to alert the National Security Advisor, who immediately ordered the custom authority to make sure these containers do not go into circulation. And each of these containers, the worth of the content is over 500 million naira per container.
The mode of concealment was camouflage of a diplomatic shipment which would have been spared from examination at the ports. Intelligence gathered by NDLEA from its partners in Europe on the containers led to the arrest of the importers.
So they are putting this inscription, UN, US on it, so that it will look like diplomatic cargo. one of their mode of operations, they falsified documents because none of these containers we seized had a genuine document.
According to the NDLA commander, Special Enforcement Team, preliminary investigations carried out by the agency also revealed that the seizures were accompanied by adulterated pharmaceuticals. He, however, hinted that investigations will be intensified and those arrested in connection with the seizures will be prosecuted. In Lagos, Musa Toliat, NTA News.
Collation of results of the Anambra Central Senatorial rerun election is now on. Correspondent Chinyere Okoye reports that over 4,000 policemen were deployed for the smooth conduct of the exercise, even though it witnessed a low turnout in all the 7 local government areas of the senatorial district.
Atmosphere of peace prevailed in Oka South local government area, where early arrival of election materials facilitated early commencement of the exercise. The same scenario of low voter turnout prevailed in Oka North, Anocha, Dunukofia, Njiko, Kanidem North and South. High voter turnout was only recorded at Aguluzibo ward, where a major contender, Chief Victor Ume, cast his votes.
That is certain with this process is that the Independent National Electoral Commission has proved to those who doubt the integrity of the commission that it is ready to defend democracy and rule of law.
If there was a lot of announcements, INEC really announced it since last year. We are all aware, but you know, like I said, it's not a general election, so you expect something like this where you have low turnout because a lot of people did not come home to vote.
Others at Afudo Square 1 and 2 in Ngige, the presiding officer Bright Okon, a party agent Amechi Ekume, and some voters expressed satisfaction with the hitch-free exercise, which featured proper functioning of the card reader.
There was no problem when it comes to INEC organization, but the number of people that turned out were quite low. We don't have an issue with our card readers, everything was working fine, but the people...
Even though there's a measure of voter apathy, as should be expected, but so far so good.
The good thing is that the INEC people that arrive here very early, where it was supposed to be.
It's going normal, no trouble.
It's going very well, in short. Everything is moving very smoothly.
Everywhere is so peaceful and calm, and the people coming out to vote, they are very much cooperating.
However, unpreparedness by the political class, absence of party agents at some of the polling booths, and lack of security operatives in others were some of the observations of observer groups.
We really need to do more voter education. We really need to get people to understand the reason why they should come out to vote. It is not just about governorship or presidential elections. Senatorial elections, House of Assembly elections, local government elections are the most important elections for citizens.
Apprehensions had earlier trailed the rerun election until an Abuja Federal High Court ruling Friday afternoon, which gave INEC the go-ahead to hold the election. From Oka, Chinyere Okoye, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Labour, Senator Ngige, has dissociated himself from the Saturday, January 13 Anambra Central Senatorial rerun election, stating that the listing of his name on the ballot is illegal and being challenged in Court of Appeal, Abuja. A release signed by Senator Ngige says he withdrew from the rerun election by a letter dated 11th January 2016, which was accepted by the APC and communicated to the INEC. He alleges that INEC had monitored the primary election held at Oka, during which his name was substituted by a new candidate, describing the action of INEC as biased and intended to humiliate and ridicule his person. In other news now, fuel situation in the Federal Capital Territory is gradually easing out. Serafina Okun visited some filling stations and now reports.
For motorists, the nightmare of queuing for hours and even sleeping in petrol stations is something they pray not to experience. This explains their apprehension and anxiety a few days ago when they woke up to a resurgence of long queues at the petrol stations. However, there appears to be some cheery news Saturday morning when we visited some stations in Abuja.
Sincerely, I was just passing by. Just finished exercise on my way home. I saw there was no queue, very short. I joined. And in less than 2-3 minutes, I'm by the pump. So that's all.
Actually, the fuel has come into FCT. We don't have a problem of fuel. We don't have a lot of problem here. Not just like other states, Kaduna, Kogi, and the rest like Plateau, the state. I think it's difficult for them there, but Abuja.
We thought that by now it would have gone off. That's the fuel line. But it's still coming up. Although I was lucky.
Petrol hawkers, also known as black market sellers, were seen roaming about, while others idling away as motorists access the product at these stations more easily. NTA News also observed that some stations are not selling petrol within the city. The managers of the stations who spoke off camera said they were waiting for supply. Serafina Okon, NTA News.
There's some good news there. Now, the place of Nigeria as the giant of Africa, serving as the bridge builder in the consolidation of peace around the world and other developmental issues, have been captured in 3 books presented to the public in Abuja. The books were edited by the first female Nigerian permanent representative in the United Nations, Professor Joy Ogu. Correspondent Ablaye Garba-Bininkudu has the report.
Of collective security.
The tenure of Professor Joy Ogu as Nigeria's permanent representatives to the UN is one diplomatic community will not forget on time for the legacies she left behind. It was during her time Nigeria chaired the United Nations Security Council twice in July 2010 and October 2011. This event is her first public outing after stepping down as Nigeria's permanent representatives to the UN. The formal presentation of 3 books she edited for documentation and for the benefit of future generations. The books are titled Building Bridges, Anatomy of Consensus, and Leadership, Democracy, and the Challenges of Development.
And it gives us opportunity to learn more about our roles in the development of our society.
Issues of leadership, issues of security, issues of world order.
Guests, including representatives of former Nigeria's leaders Olusegun Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan, commended the author for devoting her time to Nigeria's growth.
But if there is a country that needs to learn the art of building bridges, that nation must be the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
From the National War College in Abuja, Abdullahi Garba-Bininkudu, NTA News.
Now, speed violation was reported as the major cause of road crashes in Nigeria in 2017 and also accounted for about 43% of road mishaps reported in the year. In this report, Ronka Kolawole takes a look at the road transportation subsector in 2017 in retrospect, with attention on the synergy amongst key players at improving sanity on the nation's highways.
The road transport subsector accounts for more than 90% in terms of movement of persons and goods. Importantly, vehicles and road condition, driver competence, attitude of motorists to traffic rules and management are major indices used to measure effectiveness of the subsector. The increase or reduction in road crashes are also premised on these key factors.
People have not actually seen issue of road safety as ethical. They've not seen it as an attitude.
Considering the nature of our road, you would expect that the cars people ply in should be in a very, very viable and conducive condition.
The global clamor is for reduction in road mishap. Interestingly, available statistics from government agencies and the transport unions indicated that accident rate dropped in 2017 compared with 2016. Going by the data released by the Federal Road Safety Commission (FRSC), there were 4,192 deaths recorded in 2016 against 2,102 fatality rate in 2017. There were more serious injuries put at 5,633 in 2016, while that of 2017 stands at 4,616.
The accident is reducing in the country, and that is the commercial drivers are hearing to the FRSC call on safety on the highways.
And lecture them that speed kills. None of them has, you should remember, we don't have spearhead. And they have listening ear.
In 2017, the federal government intensified efforts to regulate the road transport sector. Of concern is to reduce kidnapping, bag snatching, one chance, and other technology-related crimes. The Ministry of Transportation in 2017 built on the initiative of engaging the public sector and other relevant stakeholders to develop more sophisticated infrastructure to enhance socio-economic growth. Other areas of achievements include the development of trans-border corridor operations and mass transportation delivery.
This year we are going to enhance communication, social media and technology. We want to use technology a lot in combating menace of crashes on the road.
We'll make sure that our members we are calling our leadership, the membership, to make sure that they are road conscious when they are on the highways, and then they should avoid over speeding, overloading.
Yeah, we do public enlightenment. We still have seminar almost every month. We are in partner to bring in a new vehicle to Nigeria that will move all these bad vehicles away off the road.
From all indications, the federal government is paying special attention to road infrastructure in 2018. With this development, Nigerians are now calling on key players in the road transportation subsector to form more synergy and improve the standard. Ronke Kolawole, NTA News.
Thank you, Ronke. President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated top industrialist and chairman of the Eleganza Group of Companies, Chief Razak Akane Okoye, on his 78th birthday. In a statement by the special advisor to the president, media and publicity, Femi Adesina, President Buhari says he believes Chief Okoye and his likes in the country have set the right standards for winning the country of independence on one commodity. He felicitates with all business associates, family and friends of the astute businessman whose hard work and entrepreneurship alerted the business landscape of Nigeria and West Africa by starting the multi-billion naira empire with a strong household name since the early 70s. The president prays that the Almighty God gives Chief Okoye good health, longer life, and more strength to serve the country and humanity. Well, we thank you for staying with us tonight on Weekend File. And today on the program, we are deliberating on cattle rustling. While there is little available evidence to suggest that cattle rustling is all committed by and controlled by traditional community members, there is nevertheless increasing evidence that it is becoming a more organized and sophisticated crime that is planned and implemented by a network of criminally minded entrepreneurs. We will dig more into this very shortly. Stay with us. You're welcome back, and once again, thanks for staying with us on your weekend companion. Cattle rustling and its attendant consequences have been a huge challenge to the people and government of Niger State, wreaking havoc in about 5 communities in that state. Now, property lost are not quantifiable, but More than 8 million naira has been expended on the internally displaced persons as a result of the menace. Rose Gia in this report says strategies towards curbing the crisis have been evolving and paying off.
Ara, Muya, Paikuru, Rafi, and Shiro local government areas of Niger State have been under severe attacks of cattle rustlers, which led to about 5 communities in Rafi local government being sacked. The State Emergency Management Agency came to their rescue.
We have serious issue of cattle rustling. They went to a village and attacked the village, an open camp, and we spent about 8.5 million naira to take care of them.
The creation of the Office of the Nomadic Affairs led to the formation of a Fulani Consultative Forum, an umbrella body of all Fulani socio-cultural associations and chaired by the Director General Nomadic Affairs, Ardo Abdullahi Adamu Babayo. The office is to, among other things, mediate among and between herders and farmers with a view to ensuring peaceful coexistence in the state. With the rise in the activities of cattle rustlers, a total of 3,786 rustled cattle were intercepted in 2 months by a combined force of security operatives and the Fulako vigilante working across the flashpoints.
We'll have problem with the borders, that is the borders of between Niger State and Zamfara, Kebbi and Sokoto, because they are coming with the weapon through the border. There's no how you will come into Niger State from the neighboring state. We must know within 24 hours. We have more than enough so far on the ground. We have over 1,000, and all of that are not from Niger State. They are from the neighboring state.
Aldo Abdullahi Babayo, who says a large number of the recovered cattle have been released to genuine owners, mostly from Zamfara State, disclosed that more than 20 fake claimants were arrested and handed over to security operatives. He described the challenge of cattle rustling as a national problem that requires concerted efforts of all stakeholders to avoid its consequences, which include kidnapping and robbery. Rose Gia, NT News.
Concerns and fears are growing, especially amongst the herdsmen over the resurgence of cattle rustling and armed banditry in Sokoto and Zamfara states. This is coming as the Nigerian police is re-strategizing towards combating the menace of armed bandits. Abdurrahman Jibrila completes the report.
Activities of cattle rustlers have resulted in the loss of lives and property in some parts of Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara states. This prompted the federal government to deploy a special army squad and other security agencies charged with the responsibility of combating cattle rustling and kidnapping in the zone. Last year alone, over 400 cows were recovered through special patrols by the various security agencies across the 3 states. Similarly, many suspects were also arrested at different locations across the state, while a 15-year-old girl who was kidnapped from Sokoto was rescued.
We have also encouraged the Commissioner of Police to be in touch with CPs of neighboring states, because once these cattle are rustled, they normally cross other states before they are sold. We have also involved the market people, because this is where these cows are taken, so that whenever they see foreign faces or cows they suspect, they should immediately report to us.
Last year, a peace deal was struck between the Zamfara state government and leaders of the suspected bandits, which has yielded positive results for months, until recently when attacks were relaunched on some communities across the state, which has raised concern and signifies the collapse of the peace deal.
Cows are being massively rustled with impunity. Just recently, my sister lost 80 cows to the bandits.
But NSAK, still, most of them are using their positions of making themselves at NSAK, and they have been killing.
Government should assist in providing security, and the justice should be done to anybody that is involved.
As a result of the problem, herdsmen have now restricted their movements within towns and semi-urban areas for the fear of being attacked by the suspected bandits. In Sokoto, Abraham Usman Jibrila, NTA News.
Now, stakeholders in Taraba State want government to consider the reintroduction of the defunct Jangali cattle tax as a key strategy to combat cattle rustling in the country. Joseph Zana Gambo, who captured suggestions from the stakeholders, reports that the Jangali cattle tax, which was in the past widely practiced in northern Nigeria, is a veritable means of documentation and supervision of the movement of cattle.
60,000 square kilometers of the landmass of Taraba State boast of vast swaths of lush green vegetation, a clement weather, and hydrology that makes it a haven for grazers. The state has over 2 million heads of cattle with a very large concentration on the Mambila Plateau. Mega cattle markets exist in Iwari, Ardukoda local government, Ngoroje in Sarana local government area, Mararaba in Donga local government area, Garbashede and Mayokam in Bali local government area, among others. The booming cattle business in the state has had its fair share of cattle rustling, with the rustlers sometimes killing, maiming, and raping their victims before disposing them of their animals.
Innocent citizens have suffered because of this cattle rustling. Whenever they go after those passive rustlers, you discover that communities they pass through suffer death and destruction.
The clampdown on the activities of rustlers by security agencies over the years has resulted in the arrest of several of the cattle rustlers, recovery of hundreds of cattle and arms. Among other recommendations, stakeholders want the reintroduction of the defunct Jangali cattle tax and tagging of cattle as measures to check cattle rustling.
That has cow, that traditional institution will know him, and he will know from where he comes and from where he goes.
They also want the federal and state government to seriously consider the adoption of the cattle ranching or colony system for lasting solution to the menace of rustling.
Ranching is the best practice all over the world, where the farmer, the herdsman, will have to keep his cows in an inclusive area that no rustling will ever live to happen to him.
It is better they are organized in one community, or better still, to put it in a much agricultural term, ranching. Let them stay in ranch.
It is expected that if the suggestions are properly implemented, the menace of cattle rustling will soon become a thing of the past. In Jalingo, Joseph Zanagambo, NTA News.
Thank you, Joseph. Now, our correspondents have given situation reports from different parts of northern Nigeria, and already seated in our studio is an expert who will further analyze the situation and provide solutions to the challenge of cattle rustling in Nigeria. Do stay with us as you are watching Weekend File. Now, joining me now live in our Abuja studio is the former Chief Veterinary Officer of Nigeria and specialist on livestock production in the person of Junaidu Mena. So you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now let's begin this way. You know, cattle rustling has actually become a major crime in Nigeria, and of course a major internal security concern. What, in your opinion, is the root cause of cattle rustling, especially in the northern part of this country?
Well, the root cause is livestock has a lot of value. Okay, so what will really happen is with the introduction of these credit cards and debit cards, people are not carrying a lot of cash along with them. Okay, and if you are involved in some kind of robbery, you stop somebody, maximum you get for him is 20,000. Now, just people really figured that if you can get a good bull, you can get close to 200,000 at a go. And simply because the security agents did not handle this effectively, people found it to be some kind of a gold mine, and they engaged in it with impunity. And as you've said, you see, cattle has a lot of meaning. And if somebody loses all his cattle, it's really devastating. Traditionally, crop farmers, whatever they save, they buy cattle. And they do that because it's it's kind of inflation free. You can save your money.
Yes.
All right. And then suddenly, overnight, this animal is stolen. It's very painful. That's one. And for pastoralists who have inherited animals from their grandparents and so forth, and whose intention is to pass similar animals to their own children, and then they're stolen. I mean, I'm just trying to explain the impact of this.
Exactly.
So this is really something that is very serious, you know, in terms of what it does, the harm it does to the society.
Now, it's becoming so sophisticated, you know, that the bandits are armed and well structured and planned out. And well, people believe also that those involved also have experience of herding, you know, because you have to control the cattle with some language or whatever method you use. That you need to have knowledge of that before you can get involved in that.
You're right, but you see, there has to be a cartel. Because let me tell you, even as a former chief veterinary officer, if today I go to the abattoir with 5 animals, nobody's going to buy those animals off me. Because there is a system where you source for animals and sell it in the market. But suddenly stolen animals are getting into the value chain, getting into the market. So, like you said, it's correct, there is a lot of sophisticated involvement. But you see, when you talk about, you have to have experience in herding, to a certain extent. You see, stealing is different from herding. Herding, you take animals out and bring them back in. To steal animals, all you need is a good stake and the ability to run with those animals. Any animal that is not following, you just leave it behind. But I agree with you, there has to be some level of understanding of how to herd. Now this now brings another very serious issue, because like in some states, like in Zamfara state, or in communities where there is this existing relationship between farmers and pastoralists, the moment the farmer loses his work oxen, the first suspect is the pastoralist. Yeah. And it may not be the pastoralist. You get me? So it really had also destroyed the structures. But I do agree, definitely it's well structured and it's sophisticated. Furthermore, you see, there is a difference between an animal that is due for slaughter and the breeding animal. If you saw a cow that has just delivered with the engorged udder going to the market, you know something is wrong. Similarly, if you saw a heifer is a young animal of about 3 years, also being taken to the abattoir, you know definitely these are stolen animals. So there is some kind of connivance between the people who are doing the stealing, between the people who are selling in the market and at the abattoir. So it's really well coordinated.
All right, now the presence of large forest reserves in some parts of the north, which are not, which are ungoverned, particularly by government with respect to having security operatives in those areas, like Sambisa Forest and other forests, you know, they appear to be safe haven for these rustlers. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. For example, the Palgori in Kano. I mean, I know that the fact that a lot of rustlers have taken animals in there and stayed with them. And so definitely that. But you see, the forest reserve has its own unique role in the society too. Mm. So you can't just simply, because they're using, rustlers are using that, we now talk about maybe getting rid of the forest reserve. I don't think that should be an option. But you're right, definitely such ungoverned forest reserves could be a sanctuary for this sort of thing. Yes.
Now let's look at the way out of this. You know, because while doing some research, I came across you know, a suggestion, or rather an unveiled plan by the Nigerian police to apply some level of technology to monitor the movement of herders and their cattle and what have you. And well, we've not seen that work out. Now, what would be your suggestion to how this can be curbed?
Yeah, talking about this, you see, there is worldwide, it's very important to have proof of ownership, that this animal belongs to you. And all you need to do is to either brand it or have a microchip, which is the latest thing. So if you have a microchip on the animal and it can be tracked, and it can also be a proof that that animal belongs to you. So the point I'm making is that we need to go back to the basis and really encourage owners to have some kind of proof of ownership. Okay? Now, if you have that proof of ownership, because it's very important when the animals are recovered, because it's very sad, you lose your animals, they find the animal, and you cannot prove it is yours.
Yes.
Okay, and then it becomes another problem. But one other important thing, even before this, Chief, is that within the veterinary law, there's what is called the loading and offloading permits. Animals that are sold in the market and are supposed to be conveyed by trucks are supposed to have a loading permit, which spells out the number of animals in that. Now, in the process of the issue of such loading and offloading permit, now you can dictate that sort of, that thing I've mentioned about animals that are really not butchers that are there, and raise suspicion, and this come. Now, this has been abandoned. I think it's very important to go out, because it's also a very good source of revenue for the states. But unfortunately, they have abandoned it. So if there is a loading of loading permit, first of all, they have to count the animals, they have to see, they have to certify their health before they issue this. And once they issue that, they will be moving on specified routes. All right? And in this country, for example, if you're going from the north to the south, there are certain quarantine stations that these animals are supposed to go through. And these animals are supposed to be inspected. So if we enforce this loading or loading permit, plus the proof of ownership, we can really curtail this.
Now, proof of ownership, very important here, very pertinent here. Now, in one of our reports, some people were suggesting, you know, taxing system that existed in the past, where you have to know the number of cattle that you have, they're identifiable, as you rightly mentioned, and all of that. Would that be any kind of solution?
Well, that could help, but not only to stop cattle rustling, but to also give. You see, one of the sad things about today is people think livestock owners are not contributing anything, and because of that, the issue of providing them security becomes a challenge. You see, historically, people who own cattle, they pay certain amount of tax so that the state can provide them with protection, because they're moving from one area to the area and they cannot provide all the protection for themselves. But unfortunately, this, for some reasons, was abandoned.
That was abandoned.
So probably visiting this will help not only sorting out the cattle rustling, but so many other issues. Because when you pay tax, you can demand for services.
Exactly. You see, many things abandoned. These are things that could assist us in getting certain things in our developmental level. Now, talking about cattle rustling, and we have now suggested, we've talked about technology approach where you can identify them, know where they are, when it's missing, if they are recovered, who owns what, who can identify, oh, this is mine, or who's not mine. So now, are you suggesting that there should be some kind of a technological approach to or call it modern way of herding that could now assist not only in rustling, but also help the herders themselves, make it a lot easier for them to function?
Yes. I mean, if you notice, about, I think sometime last month or some few weeks ago, the Katsina State governor launched this. So this issue of chips and then animal identification, I think it has always been an important tool, not only for cattle rustling, but for even recording their productivity. I mean, you need to know which bull serves which heifer, what sort of productivity, yields you are getting from these animals, and you can only do that if you have some kind of identification. Unfortunately, the Fulani man has a way of identifying his animals. You know, some of us cannot understand.
I know, I understand.
The example they give me is like a school teacher. He comes to a class, and then he may not tell you the number, but he will say one student's serial is missing. Because he knows individually.
Yeah.
So because of that, the issue of trying to find some identification became a problem. But now, with change of ownership, a lot of individuals like livestock. So really, it's important for you to apply this tag so that you even know what productivity or what is happening to your own animals. So it's a very important tool that
all right. What appears to be the final question, for this segment, we've heard about establishing ranches. Lately, you are beginning to hear about a cattle colony. What's the difference?
Well, I will leave.
And how would that help?
I'll leave the minister to answer that issue of colony. But my understanding is, you see, this issue of ranching is a very confusing issue, and we in Nigeria have got a way of using words that have different meaning. A lot of the times when somebody talks to you about ranch, what he really means is a livestock farm. You go to UK, in Europe, what you see are livestock farm, not ranches. So my understanding is that people are saying, just settle, and instead of roaming around, settle within an area, a confined area, and keep your animals there. This has always been the intention of government. This has always been the main intention, but unfortunately challenges have made it impossible.
All right, at this point I'd like to thank you for your time and of course sharing your wonderful experience with us on this very edition of Weekend File. Thank you very much indeed for coming to the program. And I have been speaking with the former Chief Veterinary Officer of Nigeria and Specialist on Livestock Production, Junaidu Mena. Once again, thank you. You are still on Weekend File. Sports and weather coming up next.
Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Obafemi Awolowo.
These patriots worked together to achieve independence for one united Nigeria. Although some may say Nigeria is a mistake, we all know that the Almighty never makes mistakes.
God has not made a mistake by bringing us all together in the way that He has brought us together. God has put us together here so that we can build a community that will be an example to the entire world.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
The Federal Minister of Youth and Sports admonishes national athletes camping in Lagos on good conduct and winning mentality as Falconets edge closer to clinching 2018 FIFA Under-20 World Cup, beating South Africa. Adiola Mokivi has more on our sports update.
Director, Federal Elite Athletes Department feed of the Federal Ministry of Sport at an interactive session with national coaches and athletes from boxing, table tennis, basketball and para-powerlifting federations in Lagos urged them to remain focused and eliminate every form of distraction. Mrs. Arewame charged them not to repeat the bad outing at the Glasgow Games where only a few athletes came back with medals.
You come in, you are kitted, you are given all the things you need, they are waiting for you and you enter camp, you wear it. What do you need to say back to Mr. President? Is to bring medals.
Nigeria's under-20 female side, the Falconets, on Saturday in South Africa, put up a brilliant performance, beating their host Basset Sana 2-0 to edge closer to picking the 2018 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup tickets. Third highest goal scorer in the entire series, Rashida Tajibade's 30th minute goal and Anam Imo's strike 6 minutes later pulled the crystal. Meanwhile, chairperson of the Nigerian Women Football League, Aisha Falode, has congratulated the team. As Brighton lost 0-2 to host West Bromwich Albion. With sports updates at Adeola Mokivi, NTA News.
And now a quick look at Sunday's weather prospects. And that's our show today. Thanks for sharing your time with us on this second edition of Weekend File for the year 2018. Let's see you again next week. From all of us here, it's good night.